All right, family. Black Power is the true power with General Sarasu said he kick back, get your mind ready for some information that's guaranteed to be heavy. We got a powerful one today, family. We're going to be talking about Napoleon's conquest of ancient Egypt and, some mystery that went on during that time where, he went into the Great Pyramids and they say that the man lost his mind on what he saw in that pyramid. You see, he went in there and stayed in there for a period of time by himself. He went into the king's chamber, and when he came out of that pyramid, it was recorded that that man had turned so pale. You see, it looked like he had lost his soul. And so we're going to talk about what did that man see in that pyramid that caused him to almost go mad. To the very day he died, he refused to speak on what he saw in that pyramid. We're going to talk about that today. Before we get started, make sure you get over there to Patreon. The General got some fire dropping on Patreon. That's right. We're going to be dealing with the Shabaka Stone, which was one of the great documents of creation coming out of the ancient world, coming out of the 25th dynasty. You're not going to want to miss it. Also, Hitler in ancient Egypt, as we talk about how the Germans went into Egypt. You can watch that on Raiders of the Lost Ark. And then when they come up out of Egypt, they had the most advanced military on the planet, where it took all the nations on the planet to defeat Hitler. What did he learn in Egypt? You see that catapult him to the top of the military world. For you, and also check me out, KingSeti.com, online marketplace, family. We got that fire over there, t-shirts, hoodies, African and Kemetic jewelry, DVDs from the General. Also, you could become a member of the YouTube channel, King Seti, General Seti. Click the link, check it out, family, and please get a video a thumbs up. Like it because you love it, share it with your family and friends, comment. Just don't say nothing stupid because you will. You get banned, family. So let's talk about this. Now, I know he was very upset because there is a reference that Napoleon was the one that shot the nose off of the Sphinx. And when we go into ancient Egypt, it's just evident that it's almost been, this has been talked about by every scholar, with any common sense. Why does ancient Egypt, all the statues, the nose is missing? Okay, there's some damage to the lips, some damage to the nose. You go into Greece, you go into Rome, you go into any other civilization, you don't see the blatant attack on the face, the phenotypes of the statues. But in ancient Egypt, you see there's a blatant attack on almost 90% of the statue, just blatant attack. Yeah, so, the Sphinx is, we talking about the largest statue on the planet. So, they give you all type of excuses. Well, the statue fell over and all it, but with a statue, the largest statue in the world, at a height where you got to, you know how high that statue is. So somebody deliberately destroyed the face of the Sphinx. And you're not going to make me believe that, because if it looked European, man, they would have glorified that. You see what I'm saying? If it looked European, they would have glorified it. But the fact that it looked African, they could not accept it because you got these pyramids back here, these great pyramids back here. And here it is, you say that Black people had never created a civilization nowhere on the planet. So this is a blatant contradiction to reality. And so you see the devastation that happened to the Sphinx. And they say Napoleon was the one that was responsible for that. You see? Yeah. He was most definitely. And some people say, oh, that's a myth. And, But we know if it wasn't Napoleon, it most definitely was either the Arabs, because they were very destructive on many of the pyramids, many of the monuments. This is documented. I gave you the book, The Rape of the Nile by Brian Fagan, which is a European. And I believe that book is the most documented book of all the plundering that went on, who was responsible for the plundering. So the Arab and the European was, they was tag teaming, destroying ancient Egypt. Okay. And so you're not going to make me believe that 90%. And when you can still see the Africanness, you can still see the Africanness of the statues. You see what I'm saying? You can still see the Africanness of the statues, so you know why they attacked it. But there's a legend about when Napoleon went into Egypt, that he went into the Great Pyramid and he told his soldiers to stay behind. And he went into the king's chamber, and they say he stayed in there for some hours and hours at a time. And they say when he returned, they say he was so pale. He was so pale, and it looked like he had lost his soul. And this was recorded by his own people. And they, some of his close leadership asked him what he saw, and he refused to speak on it, even to the day he died. And so now they try to say, oh, this is legend and this, that, and the third, but it was his own people that recorded this legend. This is not something that because they always throw something on the African-centered community, even though it was spoken of many thousands of years by their own ancestors. That they act like they don't know that. But we'll remind them of these facts. Now, this is very clear, and see, and I'm so glad for the great master teachers that brought us this. Now, one of Napoleon's closest confidants, his name is Count Volney. Matter of fact, let me make sure I get Count Volney in there. He was one of the great philosophers of that period at the time of Napoleon. And I believe he went into Egypt with Napoleon. And he wrote a book called The Ruins of Empires. You could get that book. I'm about to upload. And even in that book, he records what he saw when he went into Egypt. Matter of fact, let me put this. This is okay. I'm gonna put this one up. It's crazy because this is his grave. This is his tomb, which is a pyramid. And many of them Europeans that went into Egypt with Napoleon, if you go to their burial, they got some form of an obelisk. And that's why when you look at any cemetery today, and you go even in America, you will see what they call Egypt mania. And what that means, you could go and look, and you drive by, you see obelisks, you see pyramids, tombstones, you see Egyptian style mausoleums. This happened after Napoleon went into Egypt. When Napoleon went into Egypt, then you start this, and they went crazy. They went crazy all over the world. They went crazy because they understood at that point, even Jews, and these are Christians, and yeah, but they're not going down with the Christian symbolism or the Jewish symbolism. They're going down with the Egyptian reality because they know for a fact, they understood that all these other religions came out of ancient Egypt. That's what they understood. You see, and they understand that today. But this is his tombstone. Now, this is a drawing. Now, Count Volney was one of the top philosophers of his day. So this is not he was one of the top philosophers of his day. So this is not no. So when you start to talking, this is a top a top scholar. Let me put this in here. Let me put this in here. Is this it? No, that ain't the one. Here you go, right here. This the one, right? This is if you get his book, sometimes they put this on the front of the book. But this is his drawing of the great Sphinx. And you can see clearly that he drew it to be African. You see, he drew it to be black because that's what he saw. He didn't switch it up or nothing. And crazy as it is, I'm gonna drop some science on what he said now to black that up. Matter of fact, this is the book right here. This is the book right here. If anybody want, and I advise you to get it, especially for people that they always saying Afrocentric family is making things up until you show them European that been wrote this. Not that it, because they know what it is. You see, okay, The Ruins of Empires. This is the book right here by Count Volney, C.F. Volney. Okay, this is the man. So just so you can see his face, that don't really matter because but you want to be able to identify somebody when they write, and you want to be able to put a face to the words that's being spoken. So I'm gonna give you give you a identification of the man. This is Volney. Okay, this is his book, Ruins of Empire. I'm gonna give you a background on him. Who he is. Okay, I'm gonna give you a background on him, who he is. And I'm gonna clearly drop down some of the highlights in his book. Now, Count Volney was a major Enlightenment era philosopher, historian, linguist, and traveler. Okay, so he was a philosopher, a historian, a linguist, and a traveler. He is best known for his first-hand travels in Egypt and in Syria in the 1780s, okay? Now listen to this. Arguing that ancient Egypt was an African civilization and that Greece learned from it. You see that man right there? This is in the 1780s. So he not saying this because he trying to make me and you feel good, because at that time, niggas is still on the plantation. He not writing that for us. Niggas is on the plantation in 1780. You see what I'm saying? And so he wrote a book at that time arguing that ancient Egypt was an African civilization and that Greece learned from it. Volney stood out because he wrote before colonial racist theories hardened and before modern Egyptology relying on geography, monuments, climate, and classical sources. So he relied on geography, monument, climate, and classical sources. Was Volney connected to Napoleon? Yes, directly, intellectually, and politically. Volney was part of Napoleon's intellectual circle. Okay, so he was in the top circle. He wasn't no lowly, so he had access. When Napoleon went in there, he had access to all of that. He could walk right on in, do his research. You see, so Volney was associated with the Enlightenment scholars, admired by Napoleon Bonaparte. Okay, his works were well known in revolutionary France and influential among reform-minded elites. Okay, well, he didn't. Okay, I thought he went in, so he didn't accomplish. a company. I thought he went in with Napoleon in 1798, but he didn't. However, his voyage was required reading for French planners. So even though he didn't go in 1798, anybody that was going over there with Napoleon had to read his literature as a required reading for anybody going over there. So obviously his literature was one of the top literatures for the French. Okay, many scholars Napoleon took to Egypt had studied Volney's description of Egyptian geography, people, and culture. Okay, so just to give you why Volney mattered to Napoleon. Volney ideas align with Napoleon's self-image. Egypt as a cradle of civilization, France as heir to ancient knowledge, scholarship as a tool of imperial legitimacy. You see, Napoleon's famous line at Giza, from the height of these pyramids, 40 centuries look down on us. Okay, so that's what Napoleon said. So when he got over there, he knew he was in the land of the most ancient civilization on the planet. They not confused about that. So let's listen to what Volney said in his book now. Let's see what he said. Okay, Count Volney made some of the clearest early modern statements liking ancient Egyptians to Black Africans. Okay, his remarks appeared primarily in Voyage of Egypt and Syria, 1787, and English translated in 1788. Okay, Volney argued that the ancient Egyptians were Black Africans and that their civilization preceded and instructed later Greek culture. Key passage, paraphrased faithfully. Volney wrote that the Egyptians were true Negroes of Africa. Their physical features, dark skin, woolly hair, identified them as such. From this people, arts, sciences, and religion spread to the Mediterranean world. One widely cited English rendering summarizes his position as, all I see in Egypt bespeaks a people belonging to the same race as the Negroes of Africa. This is what the man said. And this is one of the most widely respected scholars of all of France. He said this when niggas was still on the plantation. He didn't have to say that. What did they see over there that caused that man to shoot the damn face off of the Sphinx? He didn't see nothing that looked like him, I tell you that. Because if they saw themselves in that statue, they would have adored that statue. You know how they change, and they change and shit anyway. So if they had seen something over there that looked like them, you best believe it'll be on the cover of every magazine, every book on the planet right now. But most of the things you see where it's something that they done recreated. It's something that they done recreated. If they could use the original copy, they would never have to recreate nothing. It'll be there for them. Physical anthropology, as understood then, he described statues, reliefs, and mummies showing dark complexion and tightly curled hair. Climate and geography, logic, Egypt location in Africa integrated with Nubia and the Upper Nile implied to him African origins, not European. Classical testimony, Volney accepted authors, Herodotus, who described Egyptians as dark-skinned with hair unlike Europeans. Cultural transmission, he emphasized that Greece learned from Egypt, not the reverse, placing Egypt as an earlier African civilization influencing the Mediterranean. Was Volney says modern sub-Saharan Africans built Egypt? Volney's view was pre-racial genetics and pre-modern anthropology. His position can be summarized accurately as ancient Egyptians were black Africans closely related to the Nile Valley and Nubian populations, not European or Near Eastern colonists, part of a continuous African civilizational zone. Okay, so this is very critical. And I was, and most of the scholars made sure that they brought this particular European, this French philosopher, historian, anthropologist. Most of our master teachers brought up Count Volney, okay, as a fact of matter. And do y'all know that book, Ruins of Empires, when that book was released in America, when that book right here was released in America, do you know they edited out majority of what I just told you? They edited out. And when he came, he didn't even know that it had been edited. And when he came over, I think he was on like a book tour. And he came over here and he got a copy of his own book. And the American publishers had edited out all his material. And he told them that if they did not put it back, he was going to remove his book from the public, you see? And that they could, they would have to buy it or have to buy it somewhere else. But he was going to remove his book, you know what I'm saying, from the publishers that was in America because they had edited out that information. So the thing is, you talking about people who are the highest level of what we want to call academia, who can use all type of logic, had access to the primary research material, and we talking about hundreds and hundreds. We talking about laymen too now. But we're talking about PhDs. We're talking about the highest level of academia had come forward and said that the ancient Egyptians were an African people, that they were black. They didn't say nothing else. You see, they didn't say nothing else, that they were black, that they were dark, that they were African. Okay. And if they could have found a way to find themselves in that, believe you me, they would have recorded it. You see, they would have recorded that. But even they had to go to the Greeks. The Greeks had already said the same thing. The whole ancient world. So we can't come back and rewrite when these people were firsthand eyewitnesses seeing Egypt while it's breathing. You can't wait till people then come in and cut and paste it. It's been 3,000 years of foreigners on the soil. I tell y'all this all the time. Even when you watch the show 48 Hours. Now, if you listen to that as a researcher, it tells you that hours, if you don't solve a case within the first 48 hours, the chances of you solving that case, it drops below 50%. You see, the first 48 hours, you got to get in there. You got to get that information while it's fresh. You can't let people tamper with the information. You see, the crime, that's why they come in, they try to get there soon, and they court it off. And, they don't want no pollution. They don't want nobody to come and drop nothing or take nothing or step on something. Or, that's what you got to get in there when it was fresh. You see, you can't wait until you understand and you get to the damn crime scene damn near 2 years later, and all whatever didn't happen over a 2-year period then totally contaminated the area. You see, and so this is what is now people want to make decisions after 3,000 years of contamination. But when the people who was first there, who saw it when it was living and breathing, it's unanimous. It's unanimous in the ancient world that the ancient Egyptians and all of Africa was black, not just Egypt, all of North Africa, you understand, was black, pitch black. You see what I'm saying? We have to remember that. And I believe Napoleon, when he went into that chamber and he saw the reality, because, the Europeans had been pumping themselves up, that they was the greatest of all races. And when they went in there and saw that black people were the founders and the fountainhead of all civilization, it blew that man's mind. And he shot that Sphinx. He shot the nose off of it. Now, a lot of people don't know. They don't know. I believe it's either in the British Museum. I believe it's either in the British Museum that they actually got the postiche. They got the beard. And I don't know if they got the nose too. They actually removed that from Egypt. You see what I'm saying? They actually have that. And I believe Ivan Van Sertima was one of them that was talking about it to try to get it returned. But I don't think they want to return that, because they know once they put it back up there, if they can try to put it back on, you see what I'm saying? If it's possible. I don't know what type of destruction was done to it, but the beard most definitely, they have that. They've removed so much from ancient Egypt, you wouldn't believe it. You see? So and so this legend has come down that Napoleon actually slept. Now, you got some myths that talk about that he slept in the Red Pyramid. He slept there, and some people try to insinuate that some type of initiation, because you got these Freemasons and you got these occultists, and they always try to mythicize ancient Egypt, to make it seem like somehow that they have acquired some knowledge and whatsoever. And what we can say that quite possibly that they did receive something out of Egypt that they didn't have when they went in. And we're going to talk about that on Patreon when we talk about Hitler, because, they was giving up some information in Raiders of the Lost Ark. If you watch that movie, that they were looking for the Ark of the Covenant, but they wasn't looking in Israel. They was looking in Egypt. They was looking in this was a power source that was so powerful that whoever possessed that Ark of Covenant was the most powerful entity on earth. So we know that Hitler and them was in there, and whatever they obtained in science, they was able to use that to create some of the most advanced military technology on the planet, and that the nuclear program of the United States and Russia was taken from Germany. So what did they learn in Egypt that gave them the ability to catapult from out of cannons into damn missiles? And you see what I'm saying? And that does not mean that the ancient Egyptians was creating missiles, but they had the math and the science to do that. But they never created missiles. They never created they took the science and they turned it into a destructive mechanism. You see what I'm saying? So they went in there and they found something that gave them the ability to jumpstart and catapult today much of the technology that you see on Earth. But anyway, family, I appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all, and matter of fact, make sure y'all get over here. Hitler in ancient Egypt, we're going to talk about that, and the Shabaka stone. You see where we talk about Ptah, who created the universe. And this is basically the same essence of where modern science has gotten their theories about the creation of the universe. Much of that came from the Shabaka stone coming up out of the 25th dynasty of ancient Egypt. You see the general right there at the Shabaka stone. So we about to talk. We gonna talk reality-based information. You see what I'm saying? That is pushing reality today. You see what I'm saying? Egypt, the sciences that's coming out of Egypt is pushing the reality today. So when people say, what the hell what is Egypt providing for? If you didn't have the science from ancient Egypt, you niggas would still be in the hunter-gatherer stage. It was Egypt that brought niggas up out of the hunter-gatherer stage. Niggas will still be out in there looking for berries and shit. It was Egypt that brought niggas science and math and brought you into the modern age. You see, we got to quit playing games. They still in there digging and trying to figure it out because they know where the goddamn truth is. You niggas is over is fumbling. They over there getting the goddamn truth. No other civilization in the modern world is where most of these scholars and military is still digging, trying to access even more advanced knowledge. You better wake up. All right, family. We got some more fire for today. Make sure you get over there, check me out, and I'll see y'all real soon. Arm yourself with knowledge. Bang on that wicked ass beast daily liberation through African education and confrontation. Boom. Black power.